Brazil, a vast nation of endless variety. Bustling cities, captivating and lively. The Amazonian jungle of the north and its river arteries. The lagoons and beaches of the coast. And the iconic Copacabana and Sugarloaf. In the south, Rio Grande do Sul, home to the Gaúcho. Brazil's economy is booming, education is spreading and a middle class emerging. And there's mounting gridlock on the roads. The 2014 World Cup is approaching, followed 2 years later by the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. So how are the fans going to get to and from the stadiums? Millions of visitors are expected. They'll travel to Brazil and need transport to the stadiums and for sightseeing trips. And the stadiums need to meet FIFA standards. So can Brazil get to grips with the problems by the time the games start? Here in Stuttgart, in southwestern Germany, they think they can help. The mayor is giving experts from around the world a tour of the city. Mobility is the theme.
So, and then we decided to let the traffic disappear, bring it down, stop the traffic over there, and just for the public transport we have this, for the buses, we have this possibility, and for the taxis.
Mobility is about a lot more than traffic. It's inseparable from issues like ecology and energy, tourism, health and business. Mayor Wolfgang Schuster says Stuttgart is a pioneer.
I think we can learn a lot from each other. We know one thing. The population of the world is growing. Cities are growing, as is the need for mobility. But we know that in the future, it won't be possible to be mobile the way we're used to it in the West. It's not sustainable. So we need to work together to find new solutions. That's what Cities for Mobility is all about.
Cities for Mobility is an organization based in Stuttgart Town Hall. It coordinates projects in 300 cities in 80 countries around the world which deal with mobility, logistics and traffic. Patrick Daude coordinates the projects internationally. A large congress takes place once a year.
A lot of people come here. It has become a lot more international. At the start, we were mainly from Europe and Latin America. Now people come from all over the world, from every continent. What's interesting and what makes the network so dynamic and attractive is that we don't only have government representatives, we have people from civil society, from business, science and development. People get the chance to share, make new contacts and start new projects. That's what makes the network so special.
Daude specializes in Latin America. He values the opportunity to share between cultures.
Another part of our strategy was to offer a really open platform, especially also for developing countries also, and without any membership fees and with no bureaucratic structure.
The Brazilian megacity São Paulo, home to almost 20 million people. The traffic is a disaster. This was the site of the world's biggest ever road jam, 293 kilometers. In the central São Paulo area, 11 million people use more than 7 million cars. The average rush hour speed is 8 kilometers an hour. Anyone who absolutely has to get somewhere has to fly. There are more helicopters per head here than anywhere else in the world. 900 in total. This is Camp de Marte military airfield. If the roads are jammed in São Paulo, emergency physicians like Jorge Ribeira need help. Military police pilots fly them right where they're needed.
The traffic stops us getting to the site of an accident as quickly as we could. It would take us too long to get there. It sometimes takes 30 to 50 minutes before someone has realized how serious the situation is and has called the helicopter. So it takes a long time before the victim gets to hospital.
The military police has 30 helicopters. 21 of the smaller Eurocopters fly in the city. Pilot Rui Paulo Galetti carries out a visual inspection before takeoff. The military police first lieutenant trained 3 years for his license. The selection process is rigorous. These pilots need an excellent sense of balance to land in narrow city spaces.
Landing is the hardest part. Finding a place where it's possible to land the helicopter safely, between all the cars, trees and power lines, presents the biggest challenge.
The 11-kilometer flight to the city centre takes just 5 minutes. The same journey by car takes more than an hour. The time saved can be the difference between life and death. Back in Stuttgart. André Souto is visiting from Brazil and he's being given a private tour of the Mercedes-Benz Arena. Souto is a Rio de Janeiro-based economist at BNDES, the Brazilian state bank. BNDES is funding much of the building work for the 2014 World Cup.
There are different reasons why we have come to Stuttgart. The main ones are mobility and public transport. But we also want to know how the stadiums work. Brazil is hosting the next World Cup, and we want an overview of German experiences, especially in this stadium.
Stuttgart's main stadium is a good place to start. It's currently being redeveloped. The athletics track is being removed and the site will be a pure soccer venue. Brazil 2014 will take place in 12 stadiums around the country. BNDES is responsible for construction. Rio de Janeiro. It's 35 degrees Celsius. Rio is home to one of the world's most iconic stadiums, the Maracanã. The last time Brazil hosted the tournament in 1950, the final took place here. But a complete renovation is needed for the 2014 tournament.
This is the Maracanã, the most important stadium in Rio de Janeiro, maybe in the whole of Brazil. It's not just important for the city, I think it means a lot for the whole country. A World Cup final has already taken place here. We hope that with the new Maracanã we're building, we can organize an excellent World Cup, and that Brazil can win it again.
Brazil's best footballers have left their footprints in the atrium of the stadium. So have other soccer legends, like Germany's Franz Beckenbauer. The Maracanã is being completely gutted. In 1950, 200,000 people packed into what was then the biggest soccer stadium in the world. But there was little seating back then, and the spectators stood jammed together. Modern safety considerations mean that's no longer possible. FIFA wants individual seating. Carlos Malborg is an architect working for BNDES.
FIFA demands very high standards. It starts with the maximum distance between the spectators and the pitch. The way it is, the pitch is too far away for FIFA. There are other things like how easy it is to get to the stadium and emergency evacuation. If there's an accident, we have to be able to empty the stadium in 8 minutes.
But despite the renovation work, the Maracanã retains its iconic status for fans around the world. Brazil also wants to improve public transport in the cities as it prepares for the World Cup. The focus is on the less well-off. As Olympic host in 2016, the work in Rio is even more extensive. Developers are building a road linking the economically weak Zona Norte area to Barra da Tijuca, the planned site of the Olympic Village. This road will also link Rio's international airport with the various Olympic sites. André Souto says the BRT, the bus rapid transit system, will cut out road junctions, traffic lights and jams.
The BRT will serve the most densely populated areas. It means people there will be able to travel much more quickly. On the one hand, the BRT will improve mobility in the city. But the project will also improve people's quality of life because there'll be less pollution and fewer accidents. You can see how chaotic the traffic is here.
Back in Stuttgart, Patrick Daude and his colleagues are taking a delegation around Stuttgart Town Hall. The subject is mobility. What else? Daude will follow up on the contacts he makes here when he returns to Brazil.
This is a train station.
This is Florianópolis, or Floripa as it's affectionately known. The city is preparing to cope with the expected flood of tourists. No World Cup matches will be played here, but people are still hoping for visitors from around the world. Traffic is a problem here as well. Patrick Daude is looking over the situation at the main bus station. The infrastructure is basically good and the economy is booming, but there are fundamental problems.
Also es gibt hier sehr wenig Information für den Fahrgast. Also die Leute, die sich hier auskennen,
There's very little information for travellers. People who know their way around know when the buses leave. But as an outsider, you have no idea where to go or what time the buses go. And what's pretty bad is this board, which is covered in advertising, has absolutely no information about the buses. If you spent a little money here and put some effort into organisation, you could make big improvements to the public transport system.
Daude meets Lucia Gonçalves da Silva, who runs the civic planning office in Floripa.
I'm really unhappy with the traffic situation in Florianópolis. Our city has to make decisions like those being taken in Europe. Fewer cars and more bicycles, an emphasis on public transport and pedestrians. We need pedestrian areas and special bus lanes. I just want fewer cars on the road. My country is beautiful, and the ground is there to walk on. We should be able to walk, run, and live in the streets. I'm a transportation engineer, and I want to live outside.
There's a lot of media interest in the issue of mobility. The guest from Stuttgart gives one TV interview after the next. This evening, Patrick Daude is a guest on a live TV show on the subject, which is broadcast across the state.
Seria uma ponte estaiada.
10, 20 años y más. Y se hizo una apuesta muy fuerte.
He's speaking Spanish, the other's Portuguese, but they all understand each other. This is Amazonas State. One of the World Cup sites is here, where the Rio Solimões meets the Rio Negro to form the Amazon. Brazil wants to showcase its diversity and has selected the attractive jungle city of Manaus. Manaus has 1.8 million inhabitants, but it doesn't have a football stadium, so a new one is being built. Architect and city planner Miguel Capobianco says the jungle location makes this a special site.
The state of Amazonas has a huge system of waterways. The region is crisscrossed by lots of rivers, and they form a huge transport matrix. All the transport in the region is done by ship, boat, and canoes. The locals are known as ribeirinhos because they live next to the river. The river is a way of life for the people on its banks. They live from, with, and for the river.
There's a road from Manaus to Manacapuru, 84 kilometers away. But to get there, you first have to take a ferry over the Rio Negro. Conditions in the rainforest are extreme. Travel here is demanding. It takes hours to reach the surrounding communities by boat. In this case, we travel by road for an hour, and then 2 more on the Rio Solimões. There's a school here in the middle of the jungle, the Nossa Senhora do Rosário. It's 6 p.m. and the younger pupils are heading home for the night. But lessons have only just started for the older ones. 3 hours of schooling a day, from 7 to 10 in the evening. They have to help out at home, so they can't come earlier. At the same time, chemistry teacher Dalinda Dias Monteiro is preparing to give a lesson in Manaus.
Boa noite, tudo bom?
Her classroom is a TV studio.
Eu senti.
When I started here in the media center, I could really sense how interested the students were. They enjoy learning and want to learn. The simple fact that they're prepared to make the long journey to school is fantastic. It gets them out of their villages. Some teachers said they had to set off with their pupils early in the morning to get to a classroom with a TV by 2 in the afternoon. I find it really motivating.
Here in the jungle, the 9th grade chemistry lesson starts with the state anthem. And the teacher is on a video link from Manaus.
Olá, boa noite a todos os meus colegas, professores. E hoje, nós estamos na nossa 3ª aula e hoje vamos dar continuidade.
The video lessons last half an hour per subject. 13,000 pupils are watching across Amazonas State. Assistant teacher Clayton Araújo de Souza deals with any unanswered questions.
I'm an assistant teacher in the 9th grade. And I try to answer the questions my pupils have. I'm a kind of joker. I have to deal with 10 subjects. I have to know something about all of them to help our students here.
I love going to school. I love learning. It's everything. I like taking part in the lessons. I love the teacher and all the activities, the subjects and the content.
15-year-old Naid Rayan wants to study medicine so she can help her community.
I live in the Arapche No. 3 community, Our Lady the Queen of Peace. A lot of people live there. People sometimes get sick and need a doctor, and that's always a problem. I like studying here and don't want to swap for a permanent teacher because the lessons are great here.
Porto Alegre is a city of about 1.4 million people in Rio Grande do Sul in southern Brazil. It's a centre of trade and culture. A UN comparative study says the quality of life is better here than in any other large city in Latin America. Porto Alegre is also a football stronghold and boasts 2 successful clubs. The stadium belonging to SC Internacional is one of the World Cup venues. And Patrick Daude from Stuttgart has come here too.
We'll be watching Internacional against Grêmio. These are the 2 most important sides here in Rio Grande do Sul, which is where Porto Alegre is. And they are arch enemies. We'll watch the match, but I'm also here to look at the stadium. I want an idea of the situation.
The 2 local rival clubs are fighting it out for the Rio Grande do Sul Championship. Grêmio are in blue, Internacional in red. At half-time, Patrick Daude focuses on the stadium.
You can clearly see that they've already started reconstruction work on the stands to turn this into a pure soccer stadium. The stands have to reach to the pitch. That's one of FIFA's conditions for the World Cup.
Porto Alegre has its traffic problems too. The small carrozas, the horse-drawn carts that ordinary people use for transport, are proving hard to remove. They're a danger for other road users. But Rio Grande do Sul is Gaúcho country. Horses are an everyday sight here. The city of Porto Alegre stretches over a vast area, some 500,000 square kilometers. The Pampa starts where the city ends. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. The event of the year is about to start in Belém Novo. It's a cavalcade, a huge horseback procession with 3,000 riders. Beto Zacaro is the head gaucho.
In other places, people get around by car or motorbike. But the gauchos, on the weekends, they go by horseback. Horses are our friends. For some people, they're even part of the family. Some even live in the house.
Gaucho Gabriel Santos de Oliveira says riding in the procession is a form of celebration.
This is a real tradition. Every year we hold the Tala Cavalcade in honor of St. George. We're here because we love horses. If there's a horse, the gaucho can't be far away.
St. George is one of the most important religious figures in Brazil, both for Roman Catholics and for the followers of Umbanda, one of Brazil's esoteric religions. St. George represents power, energy, and the will to win. From Belém Novo, the cavalcade leads 14 kilometers across the Pampa to Praia do Lame and the festival site for 2 days of celebrations. In part 2, we take a special tour of São Paulo, take a ride on the new cable lifts to the favelas of Rio, and travel on the river ambulances of the Rio Negro.